Good afternoon, everybody. It's your girl, Stephanie Robles here, and I am here with Mike Gambo, Sarah, and Steph. And we are going to talk about children and drugs 101. How do we even approach the subject of broach? Is that what I say? Broach? I probably
Broach.
Broach. Broach the subject of drugs because it is such an important topic. I have a 12-year-old son in middle school, and I get nervous, and all I can do is kind of base that on my husband and I's experience with it. So what are you guys' perspectives on it?
I know my kids are 11 and 4. And ever since Lance was born, I was an addict. I've got 6 months clean now, so he's young, so he doesn't quite know. But my 11-year-old is hip as hell, because I think he was about. Honest, I stay with him. I've used this, and I did this degree. This is what I. You do certain things. You do. There's the first families. It's something on him. Yeah.
She's cutting out.
Yep.
The face is amazing. The stuffed face is amazing.
Sarah, you're cutting out. You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Of course not.
Okay. I don't have kids personally, but I have nieces and nephews, and I have 8-year-old and a 10-year-old stepsons. I feel that it needs to be addressed early. Like I'm talking about maybe even 5, 6 to 8 years old. 5 and 6-year-olds obviously aren't going to understand what we're saying, but they will understand our tones, and they'll understand the importance of it. The earlier we start, the better. A lot of people like to sugarcoat. The stigma really puts a silence on things, and that's not good. Sugarcoating is not good either. We can't do that. We need to keep it real with them and with our experiences and even things that we personally have been through in order for them to understand the importance of peer pressure, because all kids want to fit in every aspect of their life. And even when they're not with us, they're with other people. So I think that we should really pay attention to different moods and the people that they're around, the friends as parents. We need to meet all of them people. And that's important, I think. Next.
Yeah, I don't have any kids, but I speak in a lot of schools, and one thing that I kind of realized is that kids have no idea what addiction is, and I think all the education is kind of geared towards just say no to drugs, and unfortunately that doesn't work. So you just tell kids. Do y'all hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's like something really loud. Yeah, but everything is geared towards just say no. Everything's just say no to drugs. Don't do drugs. Don't do this. Don't do that. But we all know, like we've all been kids, when you tell us to not do something, we're going to go do it. Especially like when we're told that, hey, if you smoke weed, like you're going to die and you're going to be homeless and go to jail. And then somebody you know smokes weed and they don't go to jail and they don't die. And then you say, all right, well, what I've been being told is a lie. I know when I was in middle school, drugs really weren't around. But now from like working in treatment, when I go to help somebody, I ask them when the first time they used drugs. If they're 19, 20 years old, they basically say, hey, I've been using since I was 12 years old, 11 years old. And it's just the whole game has changed. But I definitely think like a just say no campaign isn't the answer to it. It needs real education, and also focusing on the underlying stuff too.
and it's such a vast subject. I think it gets very overwhelming. So when you sit down, because it's not just, like you said, weed, it encompasses so much more, because now pills are so accessible. Like the kids see their mom or dad, somebody's hurt, the pills are there, and they don't know what it is, but somebody else has it. And they have not only peer pressure, but they also have music influences. Like the generational gap is just so vast. So when you have that conversation with your kids, it can be sort of overwhelming a little bit.
Definitely.
So having an open dialogue with your kids and just sitting down, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna show my 12-year-old this video, so because it kind of, you want to get a different perspective. Sometimes you feel as a parent that your kids kind of tune you out just because, you know, your mom or dad, like, she's not cool, she doesn't know it, but you're more inclined to listen if somebody else is saying it and be like, okay, so then mom was right. They don't want to say mom was right, but they'll listen, and they understand, and they're really intelligent about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that we really need to stay approachable, you know, no matter how challenging or alarming the topic is with our kids or with other people's kids even. What are they going to say? I got notes. Self-esteem. Self-esteem plays a really important role with addiction also. I think that a lot of the times the way we talk to our kids has a big effect on how they grow up and what they think of themselves. And, you know, if we need to focus on the positives that they do, and
lost health, like awareness, you know, because mental health is so much, you know, and making sure your kids are aware that, hey, first of all, it's okay to have emotions, it's okay to be upset, it's okay to cry, it's okay to get angry. You know, their emotions, they're made to move. Teach them how to deal with them. Also teach them how to recognize, like, if you're that, you know, and parents need to pay really close attention to that to their children, be certain shift and start getting them so that they don't cope because they're depressed. I mean, I know went to high school with people that vodka in their coffee cups and be drinking all through school. You know, I graduated in 2000, so you got to be and vodka not spillable, so they got away with it. You know, this is 15, 16, 17 years old drinking the Coke. And mental health awareness.
I can't hear.
Can
you guys
hear? Yeah. Nah, I can't hear it either.
Okay. Sure.
But I mean, I think a lot of it too is kind of goes back to definitely role models and the way that everything is perceived nowadays, to where it's so mainstream and so cool to be high, to be drunk, to party, to not go to school, to sell drugs, to be violent, to all that stuff is glorified. In pop culture runs culture. And I tell this people all the time, and people always want to say, you can't blame everything on music and TV. And I used to be the same way. As a musician that used to rap about selling drugs and all that stuff, I used to argue with people, man, no, it's just music, you know, it's just this, it's just that. But to be honest, when kids just hear this all day long, and all they hear is, you know, hey, smoke weed,
Molly Percocet.
Yeah, all that all day long. And that's the people they look up to. And these people are on all the award shows. They're on all the news shows. They're on all the TV shows. They're getting paid millions and millions of dollars. I mean, would you rather be like Future, you know, making millions of dollars and touring the world and being a star, or be the sober garbage man? I mean, let's be real. You would rather be like Future. You don't want to be like the sober garbage man. But there's nothing wrong with being the sober garbage man, you know, and then that's the thing. That's what I feel like. That's one of the things that that has to change.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Totally, yeah. I know. When I came home, Rain was singing about Trap Queens. My 10-year-old was singing about Trap Queens, so I finally had to sit down and be like, "Look, dude, First of all, you're never going to date a trap queen. Second of all, this is what a trap queen is. You know, and he hasn't sang it since that I know of. But it's like you said, it's the influence of the music. They're idolized and they think it's cool, and there's nothing cool about it.
Yeah.
My son is 12 and he's talking about thug life. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. First off, we live in the suburbs, baby. There is nothing thug around here. I mean, we have cows like 50 yards away. There's no thug life. And my husband had to have a conversation because he comes from New York. So when my husband was coming up, like, he lived in the project where he was stepping over needles and things like that. You would see somebody's father with their son and somebody holding a belt strap there and shooting, making the kid hold it to shoot up. And he's like, look, like, this, you need to realize that this is where I grew up. And you can't even spell thug life. If you don't know what you're talking about, you don't need to say it.
Don't claim it.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
You all want to be so down, like this pressure to be so hood and so all of this Gucci. Yeah, I'm not understanding the whole thing until we started teaching them about that old school music. And I'm talking about Grandmaster Flash. I'm talking about Earth, Wind, and Fire, different types of music, just so that they can kind of become a little bit eclectic and understand there's various different types of music. And this is where it came from to where it is now. So you have a viewpoint.
Right.
I'm sorry, we just branched into some entirely different. My bad.
It happens.
Oh, girl. Yeah. I was going to say something. I forgot.
What's your take on it, Mike?
On which part?
About as far as, showing your children the different perspectives, because music has evolved. The rap game has evolved from where it was to the beginning to where it is now. So you've got Nas and you got Jay-Z, and then you got Earth, Wind, and Fire. You got Grandmaster Flash. You've got all of that.
I think, I know, like, one of the biggest parts for me is, I just feel like there's been a shift in when there used to be discussion, when people used to talk about the streets or talk about certain stuff, they used to talk about it in, like, a way that was more like reporting, it's like, this is what's going on. This is the reality of it. It wasn't glorified. Now it's like glorified, like, it used to be cool to be the drug dealer. Now it's cool to be the drug user. Unfortunately, there's this huge, like you said, generational gap. So even if you show, young kids older music, they don't give a shit because, the people that they go to school with all day, they want to fit in so bad. They want to listen to the same music and wear the same clothes and go to the same concerts and do the same things. And that's what it is. I mean, to be honest, the biggest impact that I believe can be made in the youth is if there's a group of people within that demographic that are leading the way. But until, we don't have any young role models, all the young people that are known by everyone, the little Pumps and the little Yachties and the little Uzis and all these little guys.
Zane or
they
whatever
all talk about this. Exactly. They all talk about the same thing, and that's who 17, 16-year-olds relate to because they're the same age. And they think that that's what life is all about. And I think to be honest, like, if we really look at the way that culture changed in America, like, it used to be, there was no sex, drugs, nothing on TV. Everything was very family oriented. Both parents were in the household. You went to church on the weekend. There was like a certain cultural thing in America. And once all of that, as soon as drugs got bad, all of that changed. You know what I mean? All that changed, and then drugs got bad. You had a bunch of people that started having sex out of wedlock, started having kids out of wedlock. There wasn't two parents there. The economy was messing up, so both parents had to start working. Men started being irresponsible, not raising their kids. Women started saying, "I don't need a man in my life." Yeah, well, I mean, it's also both ways to where women would say, hey, I don't need you. I'm a grown woman, you know, and there was no more like of this teamwork and this, like how it's supposed to be. And in order for us to get back to where people were wholesome, the culture has to get wholesome. Like, you're not going to stop. And that's why I try to tell people, like, you're not going to stop people from doing drugs until we can change the entire culture back to where it was. And if it's just a bunch of people saying don't do drugs, this is what could happen, but the culture is exactly the same, it's going to keep going down the path that it is.
Yep, I agree.
Not even just that. You know, you got to think with the technology, everybody doesn't have time. Nobody makes time for their kids really anymore. You know, it's like the kids come home from school and either both parents are at work or the parents are so exhausted or everybody's on their phone. Oh, I don't have time to sit at the dinner table with my kids, but I'm sitting here on Facebook for 2 hours. I don't have any clue what my kids are doing after school because I don't have a conversation with them because they come home and get on the Xbox. You know, it's definitely a multi-layered issue with the morals, with the whole moral compass, you know, and people don't, there's no sense of neighborhood anymore. You know, you remember the neighbors used to watch the kids while they're outside playing. Now you don't even know who your neighbors are because you don't even talk to them. Yeah. And that's a big issue.
I think another big issue is we make the mistake of thinking that it won't happen to us. Even us addicts, I think, have, you know, oh, well, our kids won't do that. You know, and that's a big mistake, you know, because I'm sure my parents thought the same thing when I was growing up. I'm sure they never, ever thought that I would grow up in a 20-year addiction, shooting up heroin and meth. You know what I mean? So I think that that's something that we really need to focus on. And before it happens, God forbid that it don't, but just in case it does, we're educated on it. And we know the signs and, you know,
pay attention. Keep your eyes open.
And mental illness. The stigma on mental illness needs to end too, because the faster that's caught, the more chance these kids have. That's a big issue. Mental illness and trauma needs to be paid attention to. You know, if you happen to notice your kids going somewhere and they act different around one person and another person, something shady.
Don't force it.
You know,
don't force it.
And it goes back to the suicide rate for kids is ridiculously, it's going up higher and higher, and bullying and things like that. We recently had an issue. We had 3 kids. They're 12 years old and they committed suicide out of a school. And it's just heartbreaking when a child comes to, because I wanted to find out. So I went out in the community and I asked them, like, what's going on? And they're like, well, Miss Stephanie, they don't care about us. We're just 12. We're nothing.
And that's it right there.
That broke my heart, because as a parent to a 12-year-old, that should never come out of your mouth. You're 12. Like, what is really going on here? And then when you go up and you have the conversation with these kids, I mean, they're very extremely intelligent and smart. And the bullying that's going around there is astronomically crazy. But we put our son in karate and he thought that he could not break a board. For him, he did not realize how strong he was as a person. When he finally sat there and broke a board with his hand, his whole confidence level, he went from being an extremely passive child to someone that is now having conversations with friends. He went from being completely isolated to now starting to be able to talk to people. And when we found out that his friend had actually committed suicide and he was depressed and we had to go get him help and other things were going on. So it just goes to show you exactly what you're talking about, Steph. So, and that broaches the next question of what are the warning signs that us parents need to be proactive. Like, it should be like a switch when you notice something about your kid.
Yeah.
Change in behavior.
Yep. I mean, definitely behavior.
Change that's a big thing. If your kid usually comes home and plays video games and now they're coming home and going to sleep, or
not coming home,
not doing anything, that's a change in behavior.
Yeah. That isolation, lack of self-care, hygiene, dropping grades.
manic though too. I mean, it can flip on both sides of the spectrum. If you have a child that's usually quiet and docile, and all of a sudden they're real hyperactive and all over the place and real jittery, that's even the opposite change. Everybody always thinks that it's the down thing, but some kids get extremely manic and extremely hyper and lose their focus to detail whenever things are going on. You know, you have to just pay attention to your child. You know, and that's one of the main things people don't do anymore. They just let the video games babysit them now.
Yeah.
What about you, Gambo? What do you say?
I honestly missed that whole entire conversation. My phone was frozen, and I just heard noises for about 3 minutes. So what do you talk about? Just how people
warning signs.
Games. Oh, warning
signs when your kid needs help.
Yeah.
Man, I think, I think one of the issues is it's so hard to say. I think it's just like we really have to build self-esteem in kids and teach them what life's about. And because I think that so much stuff, like mental health definitely is an issue. Yeah. But you have to also realize, like, nowadays they put you on pills for everything. So it's like it's an issue, but it's also an issue into where it's overdiagnosed, to where we're blaming everything on mental health. And kids need coping skills, and to be honest, they need to get the hell off social media until they're 18, and they need to be outside playing. I mean, that's fresh air and exercise is huge to neurotransmitter development. It's one of the things at the center that we do is like a nutrition program, and to rebuild your neurotransmitters. And kids are sitting on their ass for 10 hours a day in school, coming home, playing video games, doing homework. They don't play anymore. They eat like crap. And I'm telling you, all this stuff is playing a bigger part than anybody wants to realize. Also, they still don't know what cell phones do to your brain with all the waves, the radio waves and stuff. And kids have cell phones next to your brain, their head all day. There's things that have changed that's making things worse that I think we have to look at, because it's way deeper than we have to tell kids to say no and we have to give them pills for their mental health. Like it's way more than that. We just got to go back to how it was before it got bad. I mean, when something's not broken, don't try to fix it. And when you change something and everything goes crazy, you have to look at what changed, and how can we work on this, and that's one of the things that I see. I mean, warning signs would be, sleeping a lot, changing attitude, isolating, the usual stuff. But how can we encourage people to not get to that point? You know what I mean? I know for me, like when I started using, a lot of it was to fit in. Then, I had a lot of peer pressure. I had a lot of low self-esteem. And to be honest, I was scared as shit to face life. I didn't know what I wanted to do after high school. And it freaked me out. And I knew that the only thing I was good at was getting high and selling drugs. You know, and I definitely think the school system's broken, and we put every single kid in the same exact school, just assuming that everyone's going to learn the same and everyone's going to be good at the same things, and we're setting people up for failure. I mean, you even see it, all these kids are going to college, they're getting straight A's in high school and college, and they get out, they can't even get a job because, who's going to hire somebody with, I don't know, some kind of 2.3 degree that doesn't even apply to anything, and then you have these kids that are like stuck at school but can fix a car, and they can't even graduate high school just because they, and so there's so much that needs to change, and that's what people have to realize. It's a culture issue. It's not a drug problem, not a mental health problem. It's a culture problem that is causing mental health. It's causing the drug addiction. It's causing the violence. And we have to change the entire culture, but nobody wants to get out of this like 1920s attitude where we're going to keep doing the same thing and just locking people up and punishing people, I'm one of those people where I feel like instead instead of punishing somebody, I'd rather praise somebody. So instead of telling them that they're doing something wrong all day, I'm going to tell them what they're doing right and tell them to keep doing that.
Yep.
Keep going in that direction. And I think that's the issue, is that it's like expected to do something good, but when you do something bad, you're punished for it, you're made fun of, you're put down.
Yeah,
no
exactly.
one ever pats you on the back when you do something good. So, eventually just like, I can't win, and I'm just going to go get high. I just give up.
Defeated.
Yeah,
exactly. It's almost like I actually went to a parenting class just to get some perspective. And what they focused on, they were like, whenever your kid does something wrong, just jump on them. And I couldn't help but think, like, wow, if somebody followed me around all day and criticized the heck out of me for
it'd be
every
bad.
little mistake that I ever did, I would be nuts. Like, and that's how we end up developing all these things and anxieties, because we're so focused on being perfect. And
there is no perfect.
No, there is not.
When somebody says, oh, I'm just a normal mom, I'm like, hello, there are so many variations of normal.
Yeah.
That word doesn't even apply.
Yeah,
what is normal anymore? We have so many different variations. We have single parents, single moms, single dads.
Same-sex parents.
Thank you. And sometimes grandparents raising the children because of something tragedy happening.
Or
so there
aunts or uncles or even close friends, that take the children. So, yeah, it's definitely a different family dynamic these days. And it's not catered to, and it's not educated, and it's not dealt with. Nobody, it's the single parent, or not the single parent, but the mom and the dad. And like at Rain School, if there's like a dad lunch, I can't go because I'm not a dad, even though I'm the primary caregiver for him. And I think that's wrong. Because now he can't go to something for dads with their sons where he should be able to go. And then his friends are going to pick on him because he's not there because he doesn't have a dad that's active. And that's bull crud.
It's all good. Yeah, I think we really need to take the blinders off when it comes to all that, especially to our kids, because it's scary. It's scary stuff, and everybody's running scared. Nobody knows what to do. It's up to us.
And we hold our kids to a higher standard than we hold ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's really warped to me.
And they really are. We don't give them the benefit of the doubt with how smart they are. They are little sponges, okay? They watch everything we do, and even when you think they're not listening to us, oh, guess what? They're listening even more. People really need to realize that, and realize that, talking to your kids about drugs is not a bad thing. Sheltering your children is not always saving them. Sometimes sheltering them too much can be a killer. If they don't know, if they're not knowledgeable, if they're not educated, then they're going to try it. And then if they try it and if they feel good, and then you want to keep that feel good, and you want to keep it, and you'll go to any extreme to get it. And we don't want that for them. I know I don't. I know what I went through, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
I didn't do it like how Gambo said he did it to fit in. Like, I've always been very self-aware of myself since I was probably in like 2nd or 3rd grade. I'm an only child. My dad taught me don't take nothing off of nobody. But I was picked on a lot. Like, bullied all through school. So that was my thing. Like, I wanted to be numb. And my parents never explained that to me. And they never were really there to talk to about any of it, And that's keep the door open. And don't treat your kids like they're stupid, because they're not.
Yes. Yeah, no, they're not. And they're watching. They're watching everything.
Everything.
If we're not going to show them as parents and as role models, somebody else is going to show them. And we might not like what they got to show. You know what I'm saying? That's just,
And that even goes for our kids as friends. Like, that's the next thing, like, sense of neighborhood, where if our kids have their friends over and their friends are acting weird, contact the parent. Or if the kid comes and talks to you, talk to the kid and then talk to the parent. When I was homeless and I was living with other people, I had about 13 teenagers that adopted me as mom because I listened to them. They were between the ages of 13 and 16, and their parents weren't home, and they didn't sit there and pay attention to them. And they would come to me with like all these problems, and I'm like, holy hell, this is what I have to look forward with my kids. But, you know, whenever they're starting to reach out, if they're reaching out to anywhere possible, listen. You know, don't just brush them off.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Mike?
Huh?
When what was that?
What are your thoughts on it?
Oh,
I
which
think
part?
you might have missed all that.
Which part? Yeah, he missed it. His phone cut out.
It sounds crazy. What's that?
What? Oh, you missed it?
Yeah, his phone cut out.
Oh, okay. We were talking about how the emotional part of being parents and kind of how we expect them to be just perfect and all.
What would you wish your parents would have done? That's
go.
a good thing. Like, how would you think it would have been better if your parents would have dealt with it, with your fitting in issues and your confidence issues?
Yeah. To be honest though, like my parents were amazing. They did everything.
Yeah.
I can't think of one thing that my parents did wrong. For me, it was more of a thing where everything was going on the outside. So I didn't tell anybody. I didn't talk to anybody about everything. So it wasn't anything they did, it was what I did. Left.
Okay, so what should we do? Now, this is a great subject. What should we do if we see, just like you said, Sarah, when they're friends, you start noticing something is off? Because kids are like that. Like, you know, the kids are not going to go to the parents sometimes. They're going to go to the friends or they're going to go somewhere else. But if you notice that that person comes over to the house and you kind of suspect something fishy is going on, like, what should we do as parents?
I definitely think that we should, like, be in contact with the parents of the friends. Mm-hmm. You know, I make it a point to know Rain's friends, parents.
Yeah.
So that way, if something happens with my kid or their kids and Rain's friends' parents, I had to think about how to say that. They're aware of my history, as is his school. I have been very upfront with my recovery, with my addiction, with jail. You know, I won't hide behind it. And that's not necessarily what everybody does. But I think for us that go through this, for us to tell the school that so that they can also be aware of it, as well as the parents, is really important.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't have kids, but if I ever suspected addiction in my stepsons, this is not going to be a popular answer, but drug testing your kids is okay.
Yeah, it really is.
And if they say that you don't trust me, well, that's a whole guilt trip thing. And that this also applies to your children. Trust is earned, and if you're acting strange, then you know what, we'll both feel better when it comes back negative. But I would rather deal with that and them being upset and mad at me and get a negative answer, or if it is positive, then have to deal with lawyers and jail and funerals, and you know what I mean? Drug testing would be a definite if I ever saw it or suspected anything.
How is your relationship with your stepkids' mom? I mean, do you try to keep a good, because that's really important too.
She's awesome. Me and her talk when the boys are here. Anytime that we want to see them, she is very amazing. At first it was kind of touch and go, but now me and Roy have been together for over a year, and the boys, and we really work. It's about the kids.
It's all good, Gambo. Sorry, Steph.
It's all right. No worries.
It's about the kids, and she's just. I couldn't ask for better co-parenting when it comes with her and Roy and husband.
That is really huge, because we know, I know kids as moms that, well, they don't even know who the person's with, and they automatically snap judgment because they want that person back, and they create this giant conflict. And then the kids are even more torn because they don't want to piss off their actual parent because they like the girlfriend or the stepmom. And you can't have that. The only person that loses in that is the children. We're adults. I love my ex-husband's girlfriend. I've told Rain, if you're comfortable calling her mom, call her mom, because that's okay. And he was real hesitant, and he calls her mom around me, and it doesn't bother me because she's been there for the past 2 years when I wasn't. and it's amazing. Actually, and I'm really good friends with my youngest son's new girlfriend. I love her.
Oh, yeah,
you know, I absolutely adore Jamie. And the fact that I can have a relationship with her means the world to me, because it's going to be so much better for our children as they get older.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they see that stuff.
Take the time to get to know them before you pass judgment. That relationship ended for a reason. Time to move on. You know, don't hold the kid as a pawn. Don't play with the kid because, oh, well, you're not going to see the kid because you're not. No, man, screw that. Grow up, deal with it, and move on.
Yeah.
So how do you guys... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steph.
No, go ahead.
So how do you guys feel about taking the... Because I know some kids, I've been to some AA meetings, and I've seen where some people bring their kids over there so that they could just be kind of surrounded and kind of watch and observe. Are you guys pro with that approach? Not?
Go ahead, Stephanie. Sorry.
What's the question?
Are you okay with kids going to meetings?
Yeah.
I would be. I would make sure that, you know, it was okay with Trish and Roy, but I think that is very, very important. Yes.
Because that's your second family. You know, your recovery family is your second family, first of all. Second of all, I mean, situational. It just depends, like, the level of discussions. Like, one group I'm a part of is a very mature group. It's very raw, very open. But my support group on Tuesdays, they actually have a kids group that we all can take our kids, and they're all off in a room together. And it's kind of their own little family. Because all the kids in that group have been through it with the addiction, so they can all see how each other's coping and can talk about it too. You know, that's very important to build that support system for the children as well.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I definitely have seen different perspective, because he talks, and basically he talks to me. And so I've actually, for some odd reason, when it comes to emotions and us dealing with them, I kind of feel that we're afraid to get emotional or vulnerable. We're always telling our kid, don't cry, don't do this, be strong. And
that's not good.
Like, I don't tell my kids that. I can't anymore.
It's like you're telling them to just hold it in.
And that's not healthy.
It's not healthy. It's like the glass will fill up. Like, hold that 8-ounce glass of water and fill it up and hold it there and see how long you can hold it. It's not very heavy, but if you continue to hold it for a long time, you're going to get tired of it. So he has a book where he's able to write whatever his feelings are.
Poor Gambo.
And he's able to put whatever he needs or however he feels into that book and at least get it out emotionally.
Yeah.
What are you guys' perspectives on that?
I like that. I really do. And I also put Rain in counseling in 3rd grade. Whenever I had quit heroin, but I had just gotten out of jail. I was like, look, you know, this is what's going on. I would really like to know if there's a counseling program. And then I told Rain, look, you can go talk to this person safely, and they're not going to come back and tell me anything, you know, and I'm not going to ask them. This is your safe spot, you know, and that's really important to let them know that it's okay for you to be mad at me because I hurt you, and that's fine. We will work through it together. You know, everybody's so worried about people being angry and upset with them, and it's the end of the world and you can't fix it. But that through that anger, that means that there's love, and that means that you can evolve and you can care, and the relationship will never be the same. I'll never be the same person I was before I was an addict, but I can strive to be a better person. You know, same with my relationships with my children, with my mother, with my grandmother, one day, hopefully with my father. But it's definitely, it's all a process, and everybody wants it to happen now. We're an instant gratification society. Whereas it doesn't happen now. It takes time. And as long as we stay clean and as long as we have the support, that time is going to be there. But the moment that people start being jerks and ridiculing people and keeping the stigma going, that's whenever we start losing time and we start losing people.
Definitely. And also, when we tell our kids to hold things in, not cry and stuff like that, whatever the case may be, however they're feeling, that makes them not sure of themselves. And you know, when people are not sure of themselves, especially kids, okay, that makes them very vulnerable. And it is just a problem waiting to happen. They need to feel like they can talk about whatever to somebody. You know, everybody needs somebody, and hurt people. So it's really important to let your kids know that it's okay to not be okay.
Right. Scott just said it teaches them to isolate, and it really does. You know,
and it really does.
That's a nightmare right there. Is the isolation, because then they won't open up because they're afraid. So it's all just, it's a mess.
Yeah. You know, and it's a really scary subject, because I mean, this is our future, our kids, our future generations that we're talking about. And we've got to all band together. It doesn't matter if you have somebody that you love that's an addiction, that is an addict. It don't matter if you're an addict yourself. It don't matter if you've never even met an addict. We all need to educate and get together and figure out, how are we going to stop this? And the stigma too. You know, the stigma is a really big issue with me, because you know,
addiction breeds hate.
Huh?
Addiction breeds hate. It really does.
It really does.
Of all the things we put our family through, and our loved ones and our friends, and we isolate, and people are like mad about it because we just separate ourselves, and they don't understand that we're just trying to figure out ourselves. So everybody wants to take everything so personally, and people got to stop taking it personally. It's not about them all the time. Sometimes it's just us being selfish. Addiction is selfish, and so is recovery.
It's not even for that. I know when I'm active addiction, it was something inside me, something that was wrong with me. You know, it didn't have nothing to do with my mom or how much I loved my family or anything. Yeah. It had everything to do with what was in here. And I peer pressure is, you know, and I tried that first thing, and it made me feel better. And I just wanted more of that. I was so young. I didn't, you know, I just chased it. And so I think that if we start addressing kids' issues, and if we take our blinders off and start really paying attention to these kids and going after the issues and the problems as soon as we spot them and see them, instead of thinking, oh, it'll just go away and sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
We might have a chance. We might have a chance of fighting this, you know?
I like how you said that it was something wrong with you and there's nothing your parents could have done. And you know, my mom and me have gone toe to toe with this. And I've had to continually tell her, there's nothing you could have done different. You know, they did the best that they could as parents. Granted, you know, I didn't feel like I could open up to them, but that was partially me too, you know. I've been taking care of myself roughly since I was 4, because I was living in a 4-family flat. I'm sure the neighbors would watch me, but my mom worked full time. My dad worked. There's nothing they could have done different. And it's not even an option. I'm 35. That time has passed, you know, and I've told my mom it was nothing personal whenever I stole from you or would lie to you for money. It was me needing to get my fix.
And I know I hated myself for doing it.
Right, you know, and I still do to this day, but I can't change it.
Right,
you
exactly.
know, and I've told her, I was like, it wasn't personal. You were just family. You were the closest person I could come to and be like, hey, this is what I can tell them, because I know her enough to manipulate her to get what I needed.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Steph.
So I feel like whenever we get the title of mom or parent, we're automatically, everybody thinks that we're just perfect. Like, we know everything. I'm making a point to tell my son, I don't know everything. I fall on my face 9 times out of 10, probably.
Me too, girl.
But if you have a question, I will honestly do my best to find an answer or a solution, or maybe somebody else has the answer.
We'll do it together.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you guys' take on that? As far as the pressure that us moms kind of face with that.
I don't know a lot about some things, but I know a little. Oh wait, how does that saying go?
You know a lot about some things, but you know a little about everything.
Yeah. That's real. I mean, it don't get no more on point than that for real for me.
Right. And see, and I've been told, like, I was smart. I'm still smart. I know there's no was about it. But I've had people tell me, oh, you're too smart to be this. No, I'm not too smart to be anything. That's the problem with me, is being too smart's what got me in trouble. is because I thought I could get away with it, or I was bored. So I'm like, oh, hey, I'm going to go do this. Intelligence has nothing to do with it. And because I'm a mom, I'm far from perfect. You know, there is no book on how to raise children. Your children, you've got twins, you've got, you know, your stepkids. I've got my 2 kids plus one hell of an extended family. You know, you have to learn to take it day by day. And we can't hold ourselves to the perfection standard either. And understanding and knowing, hey, I'm not going to have all the answers. Let me get as educated as I possibly can is best way to approach that. You know, I'll sit down and help Rain with his homework, and I'm looking at his homework like, oh, God, I did this 25 years ago. What am I doing? You know, I help my counselor at drug court with college algebra. I'm like, okay, I can still do this. But it's just staying aware of your whole surroundings and your whole life and keeping your eyes open instead of being focused on a phone.
Yeah, staying active in their lives. And one more thing. I definitely think that find something that they're good at, some kind of sport, hobby, art, whatever it is, and praise that and get them in it as early as possible. And that way they've got some kind of positive influence, because we are who we hang out with, all right? And so if they're just running rapid and don't have anything to take up their time, well, you know, they're going to find what they're looking for, you know, whether it's good or bad. So, you know, if your kid's good at hockey, get him in hockey. If he's good at soccer, get him in soccer, whatever the case may be.
We have a rule where if you want to try something in our home, you're going to do it for a whole season. You're not going to do it for 2 weeks, and the moment it gets hard, you're going to quit. You're at least going to see it out for the whole season. And at the end of the season, if you still want to quit, fine. Then we're going to find something else. I've got Rain in karate now, too. And he's actually doing way better than he started. He started sparring. I'm impressed. Now it's just if I can find something for the 4-year-old. But the 4-year-old loves to be outside. You know, Rain, I have to ground Rain to the outside to go ride his bike to get him off of the damn PlayStation 4. Like, I want to take a sledgehammer to that thing. I hate it. But Lance will go outside and eat dirt. He don't care, you know. So, but it's like you said, find their passion early. Yeah. I had a passion for art as a child, and my dad would bring home butcher paper and paint and colored pencils and everything, and totally encourage it. They would find a way to make sure that I had that. And we need, as parents, to learn to sacrifice. It's not about us anymore. It's about our children. We're raising our future. You know, I don't need a $500 Coach purse if my child wants a $450 set of hockey gear, karate gear.
And that's where it comes in. Yes, definitely. That's where it comes in.
Well, guys, I think this has been the most absolutely amazing conversation that we
I think I'm over my fear.
I'm so proud of you.
I hope that this topic helps everybody out, because that's exactly why we wanted to do this. Thank you, Mike, for coming on. Sarah, Steph, thank you so much for giving us all such great perspective. And hopefully parents can take this video and just run with it, and maybe it'll explain some things and clear up something.
And if anybody's got any questions,
can reach out.
Message us. Maybe we'll do this again. Maybe this will be a monthly thing or something. You know, it's just keeping it going, you know. And if you've got questions on how to handle things, don't be afraid to ask. Closed mouths don't get fed, guys. And you're not a less person for needing help.
Don't let the stigma silence you.
No,
it takes so much more strength to raise your hand and ask for that help versus just sitting there and just being stuck. It may feel like you're stuck in the mud. Like, it, you know, it's really easy to get stuck. It happens. We're human beings. We mess up a million times a day. But don't be scared to mess up, because you could potentially help somebody else or save somebody else's life without even realizing it.
I agree.
And that's the beauty of it. That's my motivator right there.
In order to keep it, we got to give it away.
Yeah, I know that's right, girl. And I'll give it away all day long.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, guys. So we're going to let you guys go, because we absolutely want to keep it to 1 hour. But we love to talk.
It's been an hour?
It's already been an hour, guys. Can you believe that?
Amazing.
And we love to talk. We love our babies. Our babies, there's so many people dying unnecessarily, and these are our babies. These are our kids. We want them to be productive members of society, and we want them to be around to see it, even if we're not. That's our legacy, and we want to leave it with something to be proud of that they can look.
But
at
if they want to be a trash picker upper for the rest of their life, then we need to understand and be okay with that too.
And support it.
Just whatever you want to be, just be the best at what you want to be. Don't feel that you've got to be a surgeon or a doctor and be miserable the rest of your life. Be happy.
Yep.
And
too much expectation is bad.
I'll pick up trash with you, baby. Let's go pick up trash.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in with us. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the day.
You too. Love you.
Allentown. Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.